Did you know the biggest diamond heist in history was pulled off by a gang of grandfathers? Easter weekend 2015, London's Diamond District fell silent as usual, but deep underground, four men in their 60s were executing the perfect crime. They had spent decades planning this moment, studying every alarm system and security detail. Using industrial drills, they carved through a 20-inch concrete wall like it was butter. For 4 straight days, they methodically disabled cameras and motion sensors. 73 safety deposit boxes were cracked open one by one. 200 million pounds in diamonds, gold, and cash disappeared through their handmade tunnel. These weren't desperate criminals, they were seasoned professionals finishing their careers. The heist was flawless, the escape clean, the evidence minimal. But there was one problem with being legendary thieves. They couldn't resist meeting at a pub to celebrate their final score. Police wiretaps caught every boastful word. The grandpa gangsters were arrested within weeks, undone by their own pride. Did you know a serial killer turned murder into a twisted game that stumped police for decades? In July 1969, 3 San Francisco newspapers received identical letters containing a cryptogram and a chilling message: "I am the killer of the taxi driver." The Zodiac Killer had begun his psychological warfare. Each letter contained crime scene details only the real killer could know, demanding publication under threat of more murders. He created complex ciphers that left codebreakers scratching their heads for years. His communications escalated with accurate body counts, threats against school buses, and maps marking future attack locations. Then came the most terrifying moment of all. In October 1969, he called police calmly reporting, "I am the one that did it," describing the brutal Lake Berryessa stabbing in clinical detail. His voice was eerily composed, like discussing the weather. Despite investigating 2,500 suspects and using modern DNA analysis, the Zodiac's identity remains a mystery. He killed at least 5 people, possibly many more. The ultimate criminal who vanished into thin air. Did you know a treasure hunter discovered $500 million in gold, then pulled off one of the most elaborate betrayals in history? In 1988, Tommy Thompson found the SS Central America, a Civil War-era shipwreck packed with gold bars. He convinced 161 investors to fund the operation, promising massive returns from the sunken fortune. But Thompson had other plans. While publicly celebrating the discovery, he secretly began selling gold bars through hidden shell companies. He moved money offshore, created fake identities, and built an empire of lies. For years, investors waited for their promised returns while Thompson lived lavishly off their stolen treasure. Then in 2012, he made his final move. Thompson liquidated everything, grabbed his girlfriend, and vanished with duffel bags full of cash. They lived in a Florida hotel under false names for 3 years. The FBI finally caught him in 2015, but here's the chilling part. He still refuses to reveal where he hid the remaining millions. Somewhere out there, a fortune in gold remains buried by a man who betrayed everyone who trusted him. Did you know 2 fake cops pulled off the greatest art heist in history and walked away with $500 million? On St. Patrick's Day 1990, 2 men in police uniforms approached Boston's Gardner Museum at 1:13 in the morning. They told security guards they were responding to a disturbance call. The guards, believing they were real officers, let them inside. For 81 minutes, these thieves moved through the museum like they owned it. They ignored smaller valuable pieces that would be easy to carry. Instead, they cut specific masterpieces right from their frames. A priceless Vermeer, multiple Rembrandts, 13 irreplaceable works in total. They knew exactly what they wanted, slicing canvases with surgical precision. When they finally walked out, empty frames hung on the walls like ghosts. The stolen art was worth over $500 million. 33 years later, despite a $10 million reward, not a single piece has been recovered. The thieves vanished completely, leaving behind the greatest unsolved art crime in history. Did you know a math teacher robbed banks for 30 years and never fired a single shot? On a Friday evening in 1973, Carl Gagosian walked into his first bank wearing a Halloween mask. But this wasn't some desperate amateur. This was the beginning of the most calculated crime spree in American history. For months before each heist, he would study his target like a research project. He timed security guards, memorized employee schedules, and always chose Friday nights when vaults held maximum cash. He carried police scanners to monitor law enforcement and planned elaborate escape routes through dense forests. His method was chillingly simple: walk calmly to the teller, slide over a note demanding money, collect exactly what he needed, then vanish into pre-planned wilderness routes like a ghost. For 3 decades, he struck over 50 banks across multiple states. Zero violence, zero mistakes. Until 2002, when DNA evidence finally caught up with him, the mild-mannered professor had stolen over $2 million across 5 decades. The perfect criminal, undone by science. Did you know 3 men vanished from the world's most secure prison and were never seen again? On June 12, 1962, guards at Alcatraz made a shocking discovery: 3 empty cells with fake heads made from soap and human hair lying on the pillows. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers had been planning this escape for months. Using makeshift tools, they slowly chipped through concrete walls behind their cells. They crawled through utility corridors and climbed to the roof in complete darkness. On the prison roof, they inflated a homemade raft made from raincoats. The guards didn't discover the breakout until morning, giving them a 14-hour head start. At midnight, 3 desperate men launched into the freezing San Francisco Bay. The water was 36 degrees, filled with sharks and deadly currents. They paddled into the darkness and disappeared forever. The FBI searched for decades but found nothing except a few personal items. After 60 years, nobody knows if they drowned or pulled off the impossible. The only thing certain is they beat Alcatraz. Did you know a con man once sold the Eiffel Tower twice and got away with it? In May 1925, a well-dressed man walked into 6 scrap metal dealers across Paris. He carried official government letterhead and an incredible opportunity. The man claimed to be a high-ranking official with a secret contract. France's most famous landmark was too expensive to maintain and needed to be quietly dismantled for scrap, but this had to stay completely confidential to avoid public outrage. The dealers were mesmerized. This was the deal of a lifetime. Victor Lustig studied each man carefully, looking for the perfect mark. He chose André Poisson, the most eager and gullible of the group. But securing this exclusive contract would require a substantial bribe. Poisson handed over 70,000 francs without hesitation. He had just bought the right to tear down the Eiffel Tower. Lustig vanished with the money, but here's the shocking part. He was so confident in his scheme, he returned to Paris and sold the tower again. Did you know a 16-year-old boy walked into Chase Manhattan Bank and started one of history's most elaborate con games? In 1964, Frank Abagnale cashed his first forged check for $40. Within months, he was posing as a Pan Am pilot, flying free across the globe using fake credentials he created himself. He forged Harvard and Columbia medical degrees, supervising hospital staff with zero medical training. Then he practiced law in Louisiana without ever stepping foot in law school. But his real genius was check fraud, exploiting weaknesses in magnetic ink character recognition systems across 26 countries. His most audacious con came when he convinced a bank manager to let him pose as a security inspector. He walked away with their entire deposit drop box containing thousands in cash. For 5 years, he lived multiple identities simultaneously, staying one step ahead of the FBI. By age 21, he had stolen $2.5 million. His run ended in France when authorities finally caught up to the master of deception. The teenage con artist had fooled the world. Did you know a $2 billion insurance empire was built entirely on people who never existed? In 1973, Equity Funding Corporation seemed like a thriving business with thousands of satisfied customers. But every single policyholder was completely fake. Employees spent years creating 64,000 fictional people with detailed life histories, complete medical records, and payment schedules. They forged medical exams, birth certificates, and employment records for customers who existed only on paper. Entire departments worked late into the night maintaining this elaborate fantasy, creating fake death certificates and processing claims for ghosts. The computer systems were specially designed to hide the fraud from auditors during inspections. Hundreds of workers participated in this alternate reality, collecting real premiums from fictional customers, until whistleblower Ronald Seacrest exposed the truth, revealing that whole floors existed solely to maintain fake files. The company collapsed in just 27 days. 22 executives went to prison for orchestrating the largest insurance fraud in American history, an empire of lies worth billions, built on people who never drew a single breath.